Holy Spirit is given to those that obey, not to those that disobey. The operative word is assent. We have a positive moral obligation to give the assent of faith to church teaching, not dissent. You know, for it was fashionable, de rigueur, to be a dissenter for a while in the church. Not so fashionable anymore. Ever since the days of Pope John Paul the Great, he did a lot, almost single-handedly, to reverse that movement. He made holiness, again, something to be desired. He was a true scholar and a saint. No question. I was at his funeral. And I'll tell you something. If anyone ever had any doubts that this man was a saint, you should have been there at his funeral for the few days surrounding his funeral. I mean, Raymond Arroyo and Raymond did a constant broadcast from the roof of the North American College. And I was with him one evening, and we went up. They had a scaffolding, metal scaffolding, set on top of the North American College, on the roof. They could look down on the dome of St. Peter's Basilica. It was magnificent. It was kind of a problem, though, because most of the cardinals and bishops they had scheduled to interview, they were dressed in cassocks, and they were older people, and they took one look at that scaffolding that went up on top of the roof, and they weren't going up there. But I remember being up there. We broadcast, it was sunset, just about sunset. And the sun was setting blood red over the dome of St. Peter's Basilica. There were 1 million people in front of us in the street. Helicopters, gunships were flying wide tactical circles around the area. Patriot missile batteries were in the hills above Rome. Unbelievable peace. You could feel it. There wasn't any crime that week in Rome, and there's usually plenty of it. Absolute peace reigned. And I knew it before, but I knew at that moment that this was a saint. And if you think back on it, you remember what it was like. It's almost as if God forced the world to pay tribute to John Paul II. You remember that? The news media, everything else was suspended. They were focused on this great man's life and his death. His teaching on human sexuality, the theology of the body, his teaching on the Holy Spirit, on the church, his teaching on the meaning of Christian suffering. I wrote my doctoral thesis in dogmatic theology on the theology of the cross, or the theology of suffering, in the teaching of Pope John Paul II. That was my doctoral thesis. Magnificent theology. And I studied it 3 years, day and night. Wrote my thesis, successfully defended it. And John Paul was the Pope that I knew best. You know, most of my adult life, he was the Holy Father. He ordained me in 1991 at St. Peter's Basilica. The essence of that teaching on the mystery of Christian suffering was that it's the power of the Holy Spirit that sets us on fire and enables us to do great and heroic things for Christ, for the church, for the truth. You are called to this. No matter how little you are, no matter how great you are, whether you're a priest or religious, mom, dad, whatever, You're called to be filled with the Holy Spirit.